Paul always suspected King Crab was more of a title than a name. And he wants to be the first human to bend the claw. Because one day, the crustaceans will rise, and only Paul will be spared. Foresight's a wonderful thing. Invest in innovation, including 3D printing, with Opto.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Opto Sessions. Today, we're excited to have Nitesh Sharan on the show, Chief Financial Officer of SoundHound. Nitesh leads SoundHound's strategic financial planning and accounting efforts and acts as the catalyst to accelerate the company's global growth and expansion plans. Previously, he held several executive roles at Nike, including Treasurer, Head of Investor Relations, and CFO of Global Operations, and served as a financial leader at Hewlett-Packard and Accenture. Welcome to the show, Nitesh. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
But whereabouts SoundHound where are they based in the States?
We're based in the Bay Area. Yeah, Santa Clara is our headquarters. So
Okay, brilliant. But you're in Oregon, as you was mentioning before.
I'm in Oregon. You mentioned I was at Nike. So I was in the Bay Area, and then I moved up to Nike several years ago. My kids are, kind of set in their school. So I've been doing the...
Okay, brilliant. How long have you been at SoundHound now?
A little over 3 years. So I joined 2021, went through the journey of going public and been scaling and disrupting, and it's been a wonderful ride.
When was the company founded?
So our founders were Stanford engineers, comprised the idea. Two of our founders were doing their PhD. That was in the mid-2000s, so 2005 horizon.
Oh, wow.
So almost 20 years old company now. For a decade, built the proprietary tech stack. This is hard AI, and sort of they built the engine, and we really unveiled it in 2016, 2017. Not sure we'll unpack that more, but yeah, so it's almost 20 years company.
Well, so a long journey. Really excited to dig into it. So I thought we could just start, maybe assume that some people just have no idea what SoundHound is. Could you just give us an overview of what you do?
Absolutely. SoundHound is a conversational and voice AI company. We believe that natural conversations is the easiest way to interact. If you think of sort of our human history of conversing with one another for tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands a year, voice and conversation has been the primary modality. Yet if you look at our 75 plus years of history with technology and computers in particular, we type on a QWERTY keyboard, we interact through the mouse, the GUI interface, now with smartphones with touch type swipe. But we really believe that voice will be this next horizon of how humans will more increasingly interact with technology with natural language conversations. And I'm sure we'll dive deeper into it, but Gen AI and LLMs are catalyzing this even in a more accelerated manner. So we're really trying to bring this all to life. And our vision is fundamentally to voice enable the world with conversational intelligence and just completely transform how humans interact with technology.
Can you just go through the sort of main product offerings at SoundHound and what the particular benefits of each one of them?
Yeah, so maybe the way we describe our product suite and our business model really is through this 3-pillar revenue architecture. And I'll kind of use that as the frame. So first, we're a software company. We create software products to voice enable products, which is our pillar one. So some of the applications are in the automotive sector. That was actually one of the first early horizons where we are the voice power engine when a driver or passenger interacts with their car and says, turn up the AC, close the windows, some in-car controls, increasingly cloud connected with what's the weather, what's traffic, what happened in the game last night. And then now unlocking integrations with LLMs. And we're the first company with the partnership with Stellantis in Europe to bring OpenAI integration to their Stellantis vehicles. And that allows the use cases to widen multifold. So now you can, on the way in Paris, going to, check out the Mona Lisa, you can talk to your car and learn more about the history of Leonardo da Vinci. So things like that. So voice powering products led by cars, but we also voice power TVs, other IoT devices. That's a big part of our business. And that's more of a licensing royalty. Our pillar two is voice enabling services. And so think of this as customer service. One major application where we're seeing a lot of activities in food ordering. So in the US, there's a lot of drive-throughs post-pandemic. That's been one of the structural shifts in restaurant sector is convenience and pickup and those types of things. So instead of really driving up and talking to a human on the other side, taking your order, now increasingly AI is taking that over. And we built products to effectuate that. So both the drive-through, food, phone ordering, app-based kiosks, that's a huge area of focus. But pillar two is much more. It's customer service across a whole area of appointments, reservations. We've diversified across industry sets beyond restaurants into we voice power fitness centers, chiropractors, golf shops. We're increasingly in now in healthcare, financial services, insurance, retail, hospitality. So pillar two is a subscription type model where a customer of a QSR, a quick service restaurant, will sign up for our service, and on a monthly basis, they'll pay us for the ability to take orders. And our vision is this pillar three, where we sort of wrap together a monetization thread where we combine voice-enabled services with voice-enabled products. So just to walk you through one example of that, imagine you're driving into work and you want coffee. It's early, you're tired, it's dark outside, it's rainy. I think that will resonate given you're in London and I'm in Portland. So you can just seamlessly talk to your car and say, hey, Kia, I'd like coffee. Well, your Kia knows exactly where you're going, and it'd say, well, there's a Starbucks 1 mile down the road, 5-minute detour, or there's a Pete's Coffee closer to your office. Would you like me to order your cappuccino for pickup? And so that whole thread, which is a new wave of interaction for discovery and transaction, allows for lead generation economics. The coffee shop is happy to pay for a new customer, and also transactional economics. And our model is to share that with the product creator, or in this case, the car manufacturer. And so there's a lot of engagement, a lot of activity where car manufacturers, TV manufacturers are very excited because they're seeing new threads of revenue beyond just the sale of the device. Really the architecture and the products underneath it now, to sort of get to it, we're providing solutions for these different verticals. But we also provide a suite of edge-based, without internet connectivity solutions to voice unlock, conversation, cloud-based, as I mentioned, integration with generative AI. And so there's a whole suite and array of products underneath that.
And did you mention that you can collaborate with LLMs such as OpenAI? How does that collaboration work?
Yeah, we integrate with our product suite. We do have this agnosticity element to it, which is we can integrate with OpenAI. We integrate for real-time domains with Perplexity is another example. We partner with Meta and Llama. So we have our own domains where we can get answers to queries, and we can, for example, if you were in the use case again of driving and you wanted to search restaurants, we actually already partner with Yelp, and we have access to their information. So if you wanted to find outdoor seating on a rare sunny day and make it pet friendly, you can search that in our own content domains. But if you wanted those more sort of broader conversations that LLMs are increasingly becoming known for in amazing ways, to learn the theory of relativity, or integrate and go, why is the sun brighter on certain times of the year? Those are things where we can integrate with the likes of the OpenAI and others. And the applications are, again, auto space. We increasingly use generative AI technologies in our food ordering because it's amazing. I'll speak particularly to the U.S., although we have a global footprint. We have business all across the world. We have dozens of languages. But just in the U.S. for the food ordering space, which is where we're focused, it's amazing just within one country how many different ways people interact and how many different ways they ask for things is one example. And Mediterranean food, the different ways that people say the word euro. Some people say gyro, some people say gyro. Former employee in Europe, you say Nike, we say Nike. There's a lot of people speak, and generative AI allows for just picking up, the conversation and making sure it continues in a seamless way.
Yeah, and so those three sort of product categories, which one do you believe is the biggest growth lever moving forward? Where do you see your growth coming from?
Yeah, there's a near term and a long term answer to that. So historically, up until 2023, almost 90% of our business was our product pillar, our pillar one royalty based business, and the vast majority of that was in the automotive sector. This year, where we're seeing the most growth is in the pillar two services area, and I would say in the near term, we think customer service is going to be the greatest growth engine for us. And there's so many applications, again, across ordering, appointments, reservations, the traditional architectures, legacy systems around, if you think of calling into traditional interactive voice response systems where it says press 1 to go here, press 2 to go here. You have to listen to a menu for a while. It frustrates a lot of people. They want to, they scream, operator, get me out of this chain. That's going to be displaced. And we think that is happening now and will happen at pretty rapid increasing pace. I'd say over time, all three pillars are growth engines for us. And we believe the monetization will also be a substantial contributor. So in our view, if you were to ask sort of 5 years out, we think they're going to be balanced contributors to our revenue. But right now, I would say in the immediate term, the customer service vertical is where we see the most growth.
Yeah. And so where do you see the future of the customer service angle? And do you see most enterprises using AI to manage their customer service? And how exactly, or would it be humans and AI collaboration to manage customer service? What's your place in that? How do how is that going to appear in these enterprises moving forward? Also, is it just enterprises, or are you, is it small, medium companies you probably look at as well?
Yeah, we started, and if I take the restaurant example, we started on the small, medium size and sort of started growing towards enterprises to where now we have 5 of the 15 largest QSRs in sort of partnership. And so we do have capability to serve these, and I think there's a broader democratization sort of opportunity here to talk about. So it can be across scale, but certainly we've been growing a lot in enterprises, and we think there's a lot of there's a lot of opportunity to go across enterprises. So, to the point on where do we see the most opportunity? Back to that, I think you are going to see automation of human-based activities. I think that's happening right now. I think you will see some areas where there's a good partnership and complement between humans and agent assist type technology. So how do you help a human do more? But it's going to be this continuous, gradual evolution. And sometimes I think it's happening so fast, it won't even be gradual, it'll be pretty fast, where it become increasingly automated. So I'll go back to the food ordering example. Many people don't go to a drive-through and, come at the other end of it and go, wow, that was the best customer service I ever had. Like, generally, you just try to get through. You hope it's not too delayed. You hope you get the food you want. In fact, we saw some data that post-pandemic, human accuracy is actually only about 85%. So you might order a cheeseburger, hold the pickles, you still get the pickles. That happens more commonly than not. And our technology, fully automated, is already at some of the restaurants. One of the partners we worked with most early was White Castle, and we're scaling across dozens of locations. White Castle, one of the earliest hamburger places in the US. And out of the gate, we launched new stores, and the order accuracy is 85% on day one. And we work with them for months, and it's over 100%, meaning automation is already exceeding human performance. And we see that across numerous different applications. So for certain types of things that have not been able to automate, I think that will happen. We will see increasing automation and productivity. The other point that's super relevant here is it's not just about productivity and cost arbitrage. It's really also about revenue. Again, if I stay on the food ordering, we're seeing many situations where we're seeing 10%, 20% ticket price uplifts because the AI, first of all, never gets tired, never hesitates to upsell. We have, we'll talk probably more about multimodality. So it's not only voice to voice. Sometimes it's most efficient for me to speak, but for you to, an ordering screen to display my order. So I don't need you to speak back to me, okay, I got your French fries and your Coca-Cola. I could just see it on a confirmation.
Yeah.
That efficiency in communication. Well, now if I have a visual display, all an AI needs to do is just display up a hot fudge sundae, and I might go, oh yeah, let's just add a sundae to that order. Those types of things are what we're starting to see already. And so again, this is not just cost containment or cost reduction. It's also revenue generation. And again, these are the things that restaurants really clamor for. In the fitness, we partner with fitness centers. As I mentioned, Planet Fitness is one of our partners for one of our solutions. And we provide great engagement on membership. So if you want to learn about membership, how do you sign up? Benefits do you get? Those are things that AI can handle today. And they're seeing great traction with, increasing growth in membership. So for them, the value proposition is multifold.
And sorry, those examples of upselling, these are things that you provide today to these clients. That's incredible.
Yeah, customizable and already available and much more opportunity. So that to the question you had on, is this going to complement humans? Is it going to replace humans? I mean, there's a continuum. And humans continue to find increasingly more value-added things to support on top of what AI can do. So we're already doing the upsell. We're already talking about new ways of extending into different use cases. So I'll stay on the restaurant one. That's an area of a lot of focus for us. We don't only do customer-facing ordering, we also do in-store productivity. So, for example, if you're a store that has a lot of inventory you got to take from the back room to the front of room, front of store, that's pretty inefficient activity sometimes. So if you can centralize, make that more productive, or if you have to find out, hey, do I have this ingredient, or how do I make this? Any type of operating manual or employee manual can be ingested quickly into a model, and basically the AI can be trained. So if you're a new employee now, you can just, instead of bothering your coworker there who's also busy, you could just talk to the AI. All these things are use cases that we're scaling, and there's high demand for.
Yes, just incredible that already it's not only doing as good a job as the humans, but better. I think that's just phenomenal, really. Just coming back onto the competition element, because obviously the other LLMs have voice processing and things like this as well. How does SoundHound's natural language understanding capabilities that you've developed over time, the tech, set you apart in the AI competitive landscape?
Yeah, there's many ways. Again, I mentioned we built hundreds of patents and deep portfolio. We've been at this for a while. A couple of innovations that and I should say the end answer to this question is we benchmark, and we have actually customers who benchmark against the big tech to other players, and we measure metrics such as sentence accuracy, word accuracy, order completion rate, metrics that ultimately are like, is this solution working? But to get to the underpinning of technology, I'll give you a couple of examples. One, we were inspired really, if you look at traditional architectures of how voice AI works, you have speech recognition. Traditional engines would take speech, the spoken voice, convert it into text, take that text and convert it into understanding. Our model was always inspired by the brain, and we said, well, why do we have to do those in two steps? Why don't we do them simultaneously? And that's how you and I are speaking. You're not writing something down, converting it to text, and then understanding it. And so what that's enabled us to do is get lower latency, so faster, but also it helps with accuracy because you don't have multi-step journeys where errors can propagate. So sort of through this, what we call speech to meaning architecture, doing both speech recognition and understanding concurrently, that is sort of one area where we have differentiated. So if I were able to show the demos, or if anybody wants to go on our website where it is there, you'll see the speed, the accuracy, the complexity. Traditional assistants, even now, you'll see them struggle with basic ways that humans interact. So negation is a concept. If I say, show me all of this, excluding this, the idea of exclusion is something that's very difficult because traditional architecture sort of have this keyword identification framework. And so our architecture was always built around how do humans speak? What's the natural way? So now you can ask for complex, compound things in the way that, we typically talk, and we can understand it in our engine. And that's part of our natural language understanding engine, where we have both, using the best of deep neural networks and algorithms and software engineering around it. I mentioned earlier, the sort of independent framing and agnosticity we have, where we can bring in LLMs where that makes sense for a query, or we can go to our own domains and have, quicker return. And we're at the forefront, and we have a large research group. Our investments historically have been very R&D centric. We continue to have R&D as our biggest part of our P&L and, our cost structure. And so we're going to continue to try to be at the forefront. One of the areas that we're really putting a lot of innovations, something we call Polaris, which is really around the speech recognition part and advancing through multilingual. The opportunity, especially when you're in Europe, right? You go one country over is not very far and you're speaking a different language. Yeah. In many of the countries, there's, multilingual speakers that want the opportunity to kind of flip between Spanish and English. And so that capability, the ability to do prompt-based text and voice identification. So the noise in the background, how do you reduce it? If you have multiple speakers, how do you know who's the specific person to stay engaged in a conversation with? When you get into certain types of cuisines or certain types of retail establishments that have sort of weird words, which traditional, trained models may not work well at, we're doing some advancements in sort of engineering the system so that again, ultimately around more accurate, better understanding, speed, efficiency. These are all the ways that we try to benchmark ourselves, and we're always, we are also, when we could do it the best, we drive it the best. When we think a solution is amplifying to an end customer, we'll take the partner.
And it's part of it, the platform that you have where you're integrating the ability to upsell. And so, it's more than just the speech recognition. It's the follow-up.
Exactly. It's more than just the speech recognition. It's about the business process and understanding. And then I'd also say what, in our view, if we get into sort of where's this current wave of AI moving, our thesis is it's going to move to more applications and to more vertical centric applications. So now if you want to be useful in financial services sector or in healthcare or even in the restaurant space, you need to integrate with their systems, and you need to develop, architectures that can understand their menus or their appointment booking systems. And that's where you're going to see a lot. So the upfront conversation, yes, needs to be very effective. The opportunity to understand what's relevant to the customer is revenue growth and upsell, as cost containment. But then also it needs to integrate with the point of sales system, so it can take payments and it can get the food preparation process going concurrently. All of those things are very relevant. And the unlock that the technology is already showing in some use cases, when you start to visualize its application into industry, you have to be cognizant of the integration required in the and especially as you get to more enterprise applications.
Okay. Yeah, because I had a question about its future applications. So you believe that ultimately it's about building out these applications that are specific to businesses, taking into account the context of what they do, what they're trying to achieve, how they can give the best experience to their customers. And so would that mean that most of your solutions, at least, this really only work probably at the enterprise level, because it's probably quite expensive, I imagine, you're building these custom solutions for all clients. Is that right?
Yeah, so we have some solutions that are intended to be, you can just, we have one product we call Smart Answering, which any now retail establishment, back to the question on where we play enterprise and small, medium businesses, this is a solution that's very accessible for small, medium enterprises as well. Any company can go to our website, Smart Answering, I think it's smartanswering.soundhound.com, can quickly just get their web scrape with basic business information, click a button, and within minutes, you have now a voice assistant that can handle all your calls. It's not an answering system that takes a message. It's not a traditional IVR system. It actually understands your business, what hours you're open, what locations, what services do you provide, what policies do you have. And you can call in and book a tea time. If you're a golfer, you can go and set an appointment for, at a barbershop. And if you're running late and you need to send a message and text the owner, you can do that. And that is something that's quickly accessible, where the integration requirement is much lighter. It's a lower touch, accessible service that can scale quickly, where the integration requirements are just, not as heavy. To the other end of the spectrum, where we talked about earlier, financial services or healthcare, we recently acquired a company that's been in that space for a while, and they have deep integrations and do implementation and customization work, and understand that these customers have hundreds of thousands of interactions where either you need to call in for balances or you need to reset your password or whatever that might be. It can handle all those things, but you do need to tie it to highly secure systems. There's high compliance requirements in the healthcare application. There's HIPAA in the US. And so all of those capabilities need to be, incorporated and understood as we're going to clients.
How do you ensure the accuracy of the responses, especially like you're talking about industries that have high compliance requirements, finance, etc.? Who's monitoring it? Is there some human oversight for a while? Is there other checks by other LLMs that see if it's working correctly? How does it work?
Yeah, so in the highly secured, we definitely have deep product testing, and we have our own escalation supports and those types of things to make sure that we're answering the right question and we're the quality is there. We have our own. There's increasing regulatory requirements, and customers are requiring us in the U.S., for example, in NIST framework and new ISO requirements that we have for quality. So we follow those, and we make sure that we're adhering to the latest standard. I would say, going back to the food example, one of the reasons we started going into that domain, because when you're ordering a pizza or you're ordering food, you're not just saying, "Oh, give me any old pizza," right? You want pepperoni and mushrooms or whatever, a specific thing. So we need to ensure that the accuracy level was there. And that was one of the strengths of our model and architecture, is that we were highly accurate, fast, low latency, but we understood. So that's also one of the reasons why not everything should go to an LLM. The hallucination risk is real. You could do some engineering and prompt engineering and software development around it to risk protect that and make sure that when queries are going, that's checked and the responses are quality assured. But at the same time, we have our own domains where there isn't that sort of high variability. When you ask, it's either sort of it finds it or it doesn't. And if part of it is, again, when I go back to that example of a euro, it doesn't really understand you're saying euro or a lot of background noise. That's where our technology really exceeds competitive benchmark, where we can really understand here, even through very heavy background noise, what you're asking for. And those are things that we're doing all the time and checking accuracy levels. And a lot of our contracts, by the way, will have benchmarks of certain thresholds before we're able to move from pilot to scale. And so we always have the rigorous sort of quality assurance to make sure up front. And then there's a continuous testing cycle on the back end.
How does it handle really strong sort of dialects, like a strong Irish accent or something like this? Is it comfortable doing that as well?
Yeah, so we have dozens of languages, and we say over 100 acoustic variations, which includes which would include your point of accent. So, for example, I'll give you, and by the way, our co-founders were, originally Iranian descent, have an accent. So that was something they were very attuned to and very sensitive to. One of the applications was the auto one. We worked with Hyundai in North America, and it was English application. It was working 95% accurately. And then we won business in India. And we took this is many years ago, took the English engine to India, and it was 25% accurate out of the gate, because the accents, to your point, also people don't go to a gas station, they go to the petrol bunk there. It's just language, local jargon is very different. So that needs to be trained. And, those things we've, again, developed over the years. So we have, and even in the US, I mentioned it's a lot of smaller countries in a way. The Northeast is very different than the South, very different coast. And so it's something that we're constantly looking and training and checking our models. One area where we're proud is using, again, the food application and drive-thrus. We noticed that certain accents from certain minority groups were not working at the equivalent of, call it, Midwestern American accent. And we quickly went and we trained and we got the data and, improved our models to make it sure that there wasn't that sort of bias embedded. And so that's the thing we obsess to make sure that it's sort of, first good for the end customer, but it's not exclusionary.
So is it continuously learning from the new data it gets in on voice? Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the real benefits, probably haven't highlighted this enough, especially when you look at the competitive suite of other companies that are in the voice AI space. I mentioned it briefly at the beginning. We were built by engineers who built this technology from the ground up. We have all the pieces, parts to the software engine. We have the speech recognition, natural language understanding. We have the content domains and the LLMs that we integrate to get answers with. We have natural language generation, and we have text to speech. So sort of all the pieces, parts of, if you think of the human brain, we have the ear that's listening, we have the brain that's understanding, the part of the brain that's, creating an answer, and then we have the vocal cords and the mouth to speak it back. The reason that's important, to your point on, is it learning? We can do machine learning, semi-supervised, unsupervised learning to kind of train really quickly and improve our models. So one of the first restaurants that we worked with had drive-thrus in the Midwest in the US, where it's very cold in January, and many people would go and order without lowering the windows all the way. So the sort of acoustic muffling was there, and we had to train that. And the fortunate thing is we were able to put machine learning at the edge, so where you could train that capability very quickly and improve models. So that's something we're very obsessed with here. Oftentimes, some of the peers we see in the marketplace who might have a component part of the voice engine and might have to use APIs or third party to others to say, this data set is failing. Can you help me fix it? That's actually a long lead time. Whereas in our case, we have all the pieces, parts of the engine, so we can make those improvements rapidly.
Mm-hmm. I thought we might just move on to a few more business strategy questions.
Sure.
You touched on sort of your global footprint. I just wanted to ask about sort of your what countries do you think offer the most opportunity, and what's your growth plans for scaling the business globally?
Yeah, we're a global business. We have business in North America and Europe and Asia. I would say a lot of focus is in the U.S. The opportunity is tremendous out here, but we see it equivalently everywhere. So for us, as a smaller, early stage public company, it's about limited resources and where do you place your chips effectively.
Yeah.
So we're focused, and I think a lot of the outpaced growth will happen in the States. But we are finding partners that are global in nature and say, hey, we have one major QSR who wanted to start a pilot out in Australia, and they're big enough and it's important enough, and we see the massive scale opportunity to say, yeah, we're okay, we'll start with that. We have some, in your backyard there, we're working with a number of partners. So I think the U.S. and Europe are probably the two biggest areas. I mentioned we're in dozens of languages, and I mentioned, our ultimate vision is that we want to bring conversation and voice in how humans interact with technology. Well, we're not excluding anybody then, right? That's a global opportunity for us. But the biggest governor is sort of limited resources. Where do we put our focus? So I think in the next, couple of years, probably the U.S. in particular will be the largest growth vector.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense to focus your efforts on and that is a huge market as well. And in terms of technology, are there any emerging technologies in voice AI industry that you think are going to massively impact it over the next 1-2 years, or you think it's largely just iterating on the sort of technology that's there and growing the business and expanding and selling it into these companies? Because these kind of early adopters, and then you'll suddenly the market will start to get used to the fact that this is the way things work moving forward.
Yeah, as we talked about earlier, we've been at this for a while, right? We're almost a couple decades old. So we've seen the evolution. We've seen sort of advancements from deep learning. We're seeing the evolution and real acceleration from transformer architectures. And so these new and the acceleration and improvements of these models are really allowing new use cases to emerge every day.
Yeah.
So I'll start with the architecture. We believe, like, as an end state, we want voice to be increasingly in all ways we interact with technology. And we're finding that technology will be able to do a lot more now through natural conversation. So there's sort of this virtuous effect that will play out here. So I think there will be both underpinning improvements, just like we've been seeing over just even the last 2 years, major advances in the underpinning of the technology that allow for use cases in what we're talking about today, food ordering, appointments, reservations. But there will be constant evolution where I think, if I were to back up a step, where do I think this technology is allowing society to potentially go if we can harness it in this direction, is democratization of access. Think of the applications in education, for example, where there's greater disparity between good education and bad education, but now you can have personal tutors that can help all students, no matter where you're from, understand subject matter and grow. You can think of that for healthcare access as well. So I think there's this real opportunity for democratization of access that this technology can enable, and really just greater and greater use cases. So both of those are good examples. The educational one, the accessibility opportunity, the healthcare. People who didn't have access to things can get them. We can increase the types of things. I have a daughter who's, she's already shot up. She's only in high school, but she's probably better than me at math already. So for me to help her with some of her pre-calc is difficult. Well, I can go and use some of this technology and help her out and still be sensitive to the rules of how the schools want to operate with the AI systems. So I think the technology is already moving really fast. The part of your question, when I think about it, is we are that disruptive new technology we're bringing to market. We are bringing voice AI capabilities to change how those traditional IVR systems, or how humans interact with customers, or how end consumers access business services, or how when you're driving in your commute, how you engage with information and search and discovery and, booking your flight or your hotel or all those things. We are catalyzing that. And then on our side, we're constantly trying to evolve the product solution set. So where we have now our ordering solutions that work well for phone and drive-through, we're providing in-app and kiosk-based and text-based order ahead capabilities, ultimately looking at what's in service of that end customer. So there's a continuous shift. I mean, every business review we have here, monthly business review, there's sort of new great ideas and new great things that the technology is unlocking. And for us, again, it comes down to like limited resources. Let's stay focused. Let's deliver. Let's get scale. Let's allow that flywheel to sort of bring new opportunities forward. That's what we're focused on.
How big do you think the market potential is for voice AI? Like how prevalent it's going to be in business if you're looking ahead long term, 5-10 years? Is it going to be everywhere?
Yeah, we think we do. If you extend this to sort of voice interaction, voice commerce, and in sort of advertising opportunities and all that, we put out. We think it's a $140 billion market. It's a massive market. When I go into applications in healthcare itself, a $10 trillion market, and the numbers of pieces of that end-to-end value chain that could be voice enabled. I mean, to me, this one almost seems the most obvious in a way that, again, what is the most natural way that we would like to get things done? Like we've learned over the past 10 years to put our neck down and use our thumbs to type really fast. Well, kudos to us for learning quickly. We don't have to learn how to talk. And then when the technology catches up, which it absolutely is doing now, the use cases are going to grow. So I think there's really, tremendous opportunity. It's more about which horizon and how do you sort of make your bet over what time horizon. So we will do research that will change the game for 5 years out, 7 years out, 10 years out. But we really got to put our development and product into products that are solving now and the next couple of years. And that's how we think about horizons of product development and innovation. In our DNA is always this opportunity to sort of leapfrog technology. So we're already, transformers move to Nformers and Mformers, and I don't even know all the, every other week there's something amazing happening and new models are coming out. The capabilities are tremendous. So massive TAM, massive opportunity, and it could be across multiple verticals. We get one of the good things about being a public company. There are obviously pros and cons, and you juggle sort of. You're always every quarter reporting how things are going, and sometimes you're making multi-year bets, and you have to calibrate quarter to quarter. But there's no shortage of opinions that we get inbound of like, got this great idea. Can you please, start helping with this? And again, that's probably our biggest challenge is how do you keep it limited and focused and stay with the agility of like, this one is going to deliver. So massive tech.
Yeah. And you touched on it there. Do you think this could make the keyboard obsolete? Is it disappearing? Will it voice take over?
My opinions, I always hesitate to give opinions, but I have not found historically in technologies that things really disappear too fast. Things stick around for a long time. I think IBM still makes a lot of money on mainframes. So, I think that things build on top. And that's what you want, right? It's keyboard. The QWERTY keyboard was originally, the technology was established because they wanted to maintain speed at typewriters, I believe. And yet today, many years later, we don't have that like physical mechanical engine going on a tape, and yet the technology has persisted. We added on top of that the GUI interface in the mouse, the touchpad. With Smart Screen, have evolved from the BlackBerry where everybody needed the typing of the keyboard to what Apple created with the iPhone. I think these just build, and it creates new waves. It creates more efficient ways of engaging. I noticed one of the ways that I calibrate on what's really coming is how kids engage with technology. Yeah, my kids are now, high school, middle school. When they were sort of, I call them in the iPad, iPhone age. So we had a TV, and my kids at 2 years old would go up and start putting their fingerprints all over the TV because they didn't understand what this remote control was. They thought everything should be touch screen. And they were putting their, swiping it, like, why is this channel not moving? I see more and more younger kids are using voice, and my kids use that for their homework. Voice as a modality is increasingly, again, it's accurate, it's working. The technology needs to work at least. And we're finding with, ChatGPT, I give them a lot of credit for what they catalyzed. What was originally, I'll use this analogy a bit of the evolution of voice. When decade plus ago, when you got your Alexa in your kitchen, you were blown away. It was like a toddler. It speaks to me, wonderful. But you found quickly that it was limited in its utility. So even now, oftentimes you're sort of limited to set a timer, play music. But ChatGPT showed us you can engage at wholly different levels of conversation. So I think of it as kind of like a teenager. You're amazed at where did you learn this? You're learning beautiful things in school, and yet you're making up stuff sometimes. So it's kind of how the technology works. So we're going to continue to evolve this technology to greater and greater maturity into adulthood. It's going to be able to, and it's already, like I said, in many of use cases where you can, protect it, develop integrations with systems, put the quality control to your question earlier. The opportunities are tremendous, but I believe it's going to only add on top of the GUI interface, add on top of the keyboard, add on top of what mobility and smartphones have allowed us to do.
It's definitely easier to especially when it's like quick questions, to say it rather than type it. I think that
Yeah.
there's no doubt. Yeah, very interesting. And so, just moving on to something about share issuance. So over the last 2 years, SoundHound has issued quite a large number of shares, which can lead to dilution, basically. But obviously, there's a reason behind it a lot of the time. So I just thought you could touch on why you've done that and how you're going to use it to increase earnings going forward, basically.
Yeah. So what I've said, and I say this to investors, we're on a horizon. We were in investment mode, and you can see it in our GAAP financials. Like we've been losing money, and we needed capital to support, and we are moving to a break-even profit. And I think with the major growth opportunities and the return on capital we're seeing, is that investing in growth is really important. But I also have messaged that we want to get to break even, and so that's on the horizon. We've communicated next year as a target. So that is going to mitigate the need for new funding. And if you look at the balance sheet as of last quarter, we reported $200 million cash. So we have more than enough cash to achieve our sort of organic pace and growth. Now, what we've done, to your point, in terms of the raising capital, there's sort of multiple reasons there. One is we had high cost of debt earlier this summer that we paid down. It was almost 20% cost of capital. So there was an efficiency, there was a cost of capital arbitrage effectively. That made sense to take that down, and that had other prohibitions and challenges. And frankly, there was the opportunity, a unique circumstance that allowed us to get out of it at low friction costs. We have done some acquisitions. I mentioned one of them. We've had some acquisitions. We believe that, again, the market opportunity is tremendous. We have a great core tech engine, but capturing customers, sometimes working with a partner that has a deep customer base that we could amplify and bring our own technology into to accelerate that growth has made sense for us. So we've seen that both on the restaurant side, and then we've scaled it most recently with an enterprise partner. So for funding that to scale and grow, that's allowed us to raise our growth expectation. We have historically been running at a 50% CAGR on the top line. So we've been able to grow organically at very strong levels. And we've just increased our outlook, with the announcement of the acquisition to now $150 million of revenue next year, which was an increase from previously at $100 million. So, we're growing. We see, again, back to all your other questions around where is this going? Where's the technology going? Where's the market going? Where's how big is the TAM? It's a very attractive market. We think there are really only a few players that both have the technology capability, but also are in the sort of part of the market, which is where we think the next wave of this generative AI focus is going to go, which is into applications. We'll continue to be thoughtful about the balance sheet. We want to make sure that, and again, with that level of cash and a very now limited debt, we think we have a strong balance sheet that's a actual strength for us, and it allows us to be agile. And at the same time, we're going to be prudent. I've been saying multiple times, we can't just choose every opportunity out there that comes to us and say, let's go try 15 things. We have to be focused. And that's what we try to articulate, every quarter when we're reporting earnings.
Yeah, thanks, Nitesh. That's good. Get some clarity on it. Makes a lot of sense. And I know it's a really high growth industry, so it'd be really interesting to see where things go. I've got one last question. It's just about AI in general. Just wanted your sort of thoughts on what might surprise the most in the next 5-10 years as like a application of AI, not the average person on the street's going to benefit from.
What's the application that the common person on the street will benefit from?
A bit wider than just maybe voice. Like I don't know, I don't know if anything comes to mind, but what do you think might surprise?
I'll broaden it. My 2 cents. I mean, I think predictions are tricky, and it's funny, the history of innovation oftentimes is like what the common mindset was. It turns out to be almost the opposite of what people think in terms of its impact. So I'll take the optimistic view, but I do believe there's a shared responsibility across corporations like us to build the technology the right way, regulatory bodies, academia, the consumer base, holding accountable all the constituents. Like I think there is a common shared responsibility because AI, I think has a real promise and risk of being great and, causing trouble. So I will go back to a point I made earlier when I'm optimistic, not just for voice. I think voice will be a greater share of this, but I'll broaden it to your question. That is back to this idea of democratization and personalization. I'm very hopeful. It's so much of technology is sort of concentrated. And if you look across the world, this sort of wealth concentration or knowledge concentration or access concentration seems like it's only, increasing. The dream obviously with technology has always been to be pervasive and to be accessible. So if I use sort of the journey of a human, I'll start with that personal tutor. I just find it so amazing where the technology doesn't have to all be voice. It could be text based. It could be, it could be different modalities that any kid anywhere hopefully can get access to the best education across math, science, arts, creative inspiration for music. All that can be there. So every child can reach his or her own potential. I think when you go further in life and, training for jobs and, ideas to get expertise in an area because you're really passionate about getting into software engineering or, now the technology is building code for you. So who's going to help you architect it? You can really get trained up for different jobs, no matter what your background is, pretty quickly. And then I'd say later on, in terms of choices, some of it seems like it's possible that it'll be very salient and not clear. And so again, this adds to the responsibility set. How do you get a mortgage for your first house, or how do you get a credit for your business to start? It will be embedded and pervasive everywhere. So you don't have to walk into a local branch. There'll be different places. So it should be accessible even in, inner cities or rural areas that otherwise don't have access to those capital bases. And then finally, I'd say the healthcare one seems very intriguing, right? So any person anywhere can hopefully get access to the best care. I think all that is available. 5, 10, I don't really know when. I think the technology is moving rapidly. I think the most important thing is how do we harness it together as a society to get access distributed equitably to people who really need it.
There's no doubt it's moving very quickly. I'm sure we'll be catching up again not too long because things have moved forward again. And it's never happened before. The pace of change of this sort of technology is just fascinating. It seems like, because we use a lot of the solutions, like, as sure a lot of other people do, OpenAI and Gemini, things like this, and they're just updates all the time. And it's hard to keep track of, really. But yeah, the applications are just, there's so many different applications that it's hard to narrow down to the ones that we think we can use it. But yeah, thanks so much I really appreciate you going in depth on SoundHound. It's great to talk to public companies, the CFOs, like C-suite, to get the real insights from the top. Is there anything you'd like to leave with before we wrap up, Nitesh?
No, I guess I'll just say, if you were talking about some of them, so even this interaction, I'm sure if you caught the deep dive Notebook LM podcast, like what we're able to do is amazing. So I'm imagining even our conversations in the future will have a lot of shifts. And so no, thank you for having me. It is really exciting time, and appreciate the chance to talk to you.
Yeah, no problem at all. Have a great week, and hope to talk again in the future.
Take care.
See you, Nitesh.